Well, here's a little penguin puzzle for a Saturday morning. When I took 4 of my machines out to take a picture of them and boast that I had 4 of them running, well, one of them quit when I was moving it back into this parking space. So it just quit like someone shut the key off, and it wouldn't restart in either forward or reverse. So the first thing I'm doing here is checking spark. So I've got a spark tester installed between the engine cowl here as ground and the spark plug wire, and I'm just going to see if there's any spark. That's forward and we see nothing. And there's reverse and we see nothing. Now, right away I suspected possibly dirty points, but dirty points forward and reverse at the same time, that's possible, but not likely, really. So first thing I want to do is check and make sure that the ignition circuit is getting power, and by that I mean the circuit to the ignition coil and down through to the points. So I've got the plug pulled out here. Okay, so I think I can do this with one hand on the camera and one hand on the tester. So I've connected the test light to the engine for ground, and with the key off we have power on the red wire, which we should have. Now I'll put the light into the key side of the black wire. And we've got nothing. So it looks like there is no power coming from the ignition switch back to the coil. So what that means is the ignition switch is not sending power back. And that, let's see, there is the black wire right there, which it also has the wire that feeds the power that feeds the neutral indicator light and the generator light. So that looks to be on there. So if we turn the switch on, oh, the generator light's on, and we have power, although, oh, there's power at the ignition terminal on that switch. So just check something here. We try this. We've got spark. So I guess it looks like I wiggled that connector on the switch. So I think I have a dirty connection at that switch. So I'm going to take that connection off the switch and clean it and put it back on and see what happens. Well, I did take that connection apart and cleaned it a little bit, and I think the problem is that I take this Penguin to snowmobile shows and it sits on the trailer backwards with nothing covering it, and salt is getting into it, and I think it's going to cause me some problems. Anyway, at the moment we'll see what happens at our spark tester here. I can see and hear sparks at the tester, so I'm going to connect the spark plug wire back up here to the spark plug. Hit the tickler for a count of 1, 2, 3 or so. Let's see what happens. Well, that's forward. And that's reverse. So that was a fairly simple fix. Well, at least to get it running for now. And now I'll know if it quits again what to check for. But that was a simple look at diagnosing a no spark issue. It actually didn't take long, which was good. So this one's running. Now I get to go diagnose a no spark in another machine. So now I've moved on to a different Penguin. This was one I was hoping to put in the picture with all the other ones that were running yesterday. But this one wouldn't stay running, so I'm checking spark on it. Now, that was forward, and I'm not seeing any spark there at all. So we'll try reverse. Well, I can hear the spark, although the camera's not capturing it, and my battery's a little weak. So we have spark in reverse. So that leads me to believe there is a dirty set of forward points. So this Penguin that doesn't get used a lot, I want to take that side cover off, I guess, pull it out and clean the points. Which means pulling this screw out, the screw down below that we can't really see, taking the nut off the stud at the front, and disconnecting these two wires. Now I will do that, and I'll pull that cover out where we can see it, and pop the cover off the points, and see what we see. Just to show you the hardware I'm going to be attacking here, there's the upper screw in the right hand side cover, there's the lower screw right there, and the nut on the stud I want to remove is right there. So we'll show you the tools here in a sec. Here are the tools I'm going to use to take that side cover off. This is the my impact driver set. I've taken the bit that fits the screw, I've taken a 1/4 inch socket that fits the bit, 1/4 inch ratchet, and a 9mm combination wrench. That should get the side cover off. And once the side cover is off and I have the points exposed, there's a motor tool with a wire wheel on it to clean our points. So I'll take the cover off and bring it back out here. I hope, be able to get the cover off without taking the exhaust out of the way. If I experience problems there, I'll let you know, but hopefully the next shot will be the side cover with the points cover off. No, the side cover's not off yet. I just wanted to show you this. The two wires for the points, because there's a black with a red tracer and a red with a black tracer, and this one's red and this one's black, and which goes where, well, the way I disconnect them, if at all possible, the connection is a bullet connector on each end of the wire. Like that wire's got a bullet connector on it, this one has one on it, this one has one on it, this one has one on it. So they've all got male connectors on them, and then they've got these sleeves to join them. So if you pull them apart with just, like if you pull this wire with a bullet connector exposed and this wire with the bullet connector exposed, it doesn't help you put them back together. Then you have to remember, and some of us, well, our memory isn't all that great. So if at all possible, this one I've pulled apart so that the bullet connector is exposed on this wire, and this one I've pulled apart so the bullet connector is exposed on this wire. So it's rather simple to figure out which one goes where. Now I do have to, also disconnect the neutral indicator light wire, and I'm not sure if this joint is a joint I can pull apart or if I've connected it more permanently. But anyway, I'll pull the side cover off and see if I have to pull this apart or if I can just disconnect it at the side of the engine, or if I have to pull it apart from the connector at the seat. Anyway, that yellow wire should come out through a hole in this side cover, so it's going to have to be disconnected one way or another. Probably, well, either here, if I can, or all the way over at the connector, at the edge of the seat way over there. But we'll start tearing the cover off and see what happens. I'll just show you, if I can here, where we're working to get at that front stud. There's the wrench. It's on the nut that's holding the front of the side cover in place, so we've got to reach in there to get that nut and probably washer out of there without dropping them in the bottom of the engine compartment. So there's the top screw loose and, well, out, and I'm just going to set that aside because two screws are different lengths, and the other screw is down in there, and I showed it to you on the engine on the stand because it's really hard to show it to you while the engine's in the machine. So we'll pull that screw out, and that screw is longer, I believe, than the one that was on the top. So I'll go with that and come back. So here I believe I have my screwdriver bit on the screw, and as you can see the ratchet is sitting right on the chain, and there isn't much room for the ratchet in here, so I'm going to spin this out and compare this screw to the other one I took out. There's the screw right there. It did come out. So there's the screw there. That's the one off the bottom, that's the one off the top. So the one on the bottom is longer, and the heads of those screws are getting chewed up. So I'll have to be a little more careful working with them. But so that's the two screws and the nut off the stud, so I'm going to wiggle the cover off. I haven't found the washer yet, so I'll make sure to look for that as I wiggle this cover off. Hopefully that cover will wiggle off. Well, the cover did wiggle off, and where there's supposed to be a hole in this cover, there's a slot, so I didn't have to disconnect the neutral indicator light wire, but that is the only one of my machines, I think, that has that slot in it. I'm not sure. I don't think that's a factory thing. And in my excitement that the cover was loosening, I forgot to watch for the washer, so I'll check for that before I go any further. Okay, so just so I know which set of points is dirty, and so I can compare my findings before and after I clean them, so I have a good idea that they're cleaned. I have a test light I made up here using an LED side marker light and a 9-volt battery and a couple of pieces of wire with some alligator clips. So if I connect the clips together, the test light lights up. So connect that to ground, one side, one alligator clip to ground, and touch the other set of points. Both sets of points are closed. So if I touch one wire here, our light comes on. So that indicates power is getting through, and that looks like the red with the black tracer, which is this one. Actually, we can test that. So the light is on. If I move this point, light goes out. So that's the reverse set of points that was working, or at least it should be, because this other connection here, oh, our ground's come off. So I'm connected to this wire and ground, and there's no light. So opening and closing this doesn't make any difference, but what if I take a screwdriver and touch the stationary contact to the arm for the movable contact? Light comes on and now it's staying on. If I open the points and close them again, yeah. So that set of contacts there is dirty, and they're making intermittent contact. Yeah. So I'm going to take these. There's an E-clip on here, a little E-shaped clip, and there should be two washers. So actually, I'll do that right here. Well, I had a little technical issue with the video I was recording as I was cleaning the points for the engine in the machine. So I'm going to just show you on this other cover that's off the engine that's on the stand, just give you a little better view of how the points come out of the cover. And then actually I'll have to show you how the points go back in the cover, because I seem to have had a technical difficulty when I did that as well, when I showed that on the actual machine. So first of all, this is the cover, and I've taken the cover off the points. The cover goes here, and I've got a small jeweler screwdriver and a pair of needle nose pliers. So we take a close look here. There's a clip here on a brass post which holds the movable contact point on, and we'll also be working with this spring here that goes around the movable contact against this tab. Now there's an insulator here. The spring comes around. It's on. It's actually riveted to this insulator, and the wire that goes back to the coil is connected to the spring, so that when this is open, it's not connected to anything electrically. There's an insulator on the pivot point here. Anyway, I'll show you here how I take this apart. So using the small screwdriver, gentle pry on the E-clip should get the E-clip to slide off the post if the camera will focus here. There's the E-clip coming off, so I'll just set this down so I don't drop anything. I'll just carefully take the E-clip off, and then there should be two washers here. If they'll come off, and there should be two washers. Yours may have one washer or no washers, but anyway, there should be two. So that has the contact essentially free to remove from the post, the brass post. See the insulator here. So, to remove this, to slide it up, we still have to take this insulator out of this bracket. So to do that, we simply gently pry with the screwdriver, and the insulator's popped out. So we should be able to lift up on that contact and remove it. Now, it's not a bad idea to compress the spring a little, and actually the wire from the other, I should have taken this contact out because the wire goes right across in the way of this one here. I'll just move that wire out of the way. So if we gently squeeze the spring and wiggle, there is the movable contact off the post and out where we can get at it. So this here at the end of my finger is what we're going to clean, and then get a pointer here. If we can see down in here, this is the other contact point we want to clean. Now, the easiest way to get at this one, of course, is to take this contact, this movable contact, out of the way. Then we can clean them all. We can get at them all with the wire brush. So I was going to skip showing you exactly how I clean them with the wire brush on the motor tool, because it sounds a little bit like a dentist's office, but stay tuned. I think I may have changed my mind. Okay, well, I changed my mind. I'm going to give you the dentist's office sound effects here as I clean these points. So that didn't take long with the wire brush, and it should appear to be shiny there, and the other contact in here shiny. Now they are a little pitted, but those look like they're the original SIBO points. And I've had this machine for 23 years, and I think I put those points in it. So I'm not filing them because it removes material from the points that I don't think I need to remove. And if I remove material from the points, that affects the gap, which affects the timing. And ignition timing is a real pain in the neck to adjust. So just polishing them, and as far as I'm concerned, removes very little, if any, material. So I haven't noticed any effect in the ignition timing. So that's why I'm just polishing them with a wire brush. I'm going to take this other set out and we'll clean it up. And I'll put this one back in, and I'll show you how I put this back in, because there's a little bit of a trick to it. Since I had a technical difficulty putting this back together on the actual cover on the machine that we're working on, I'll show you again on this cover, which is off the engine that's on the stand, how the points go back into the side cover. So the two sets of points here are off of the posts, and we'll take it as read that they've been cleaned. So we want to put the back on this brass post, and we'll do the one towards the rear of the cover first, because as we saw when I took this apart, I took that off first, this wire gets in the way. So we'll put this one on first, and of course while we're putting this back together, we want to avoid, if at all possible, touching the contact points with our fingers, so we don't get any oil or grease off our fingers on the contacts where they can attract dirt. So we'll start with this set, which I believe is for reverse. So we start by starting that on the post. Now the spring has pushed the insulator out here far enough that it won't go down into its position, and the contact arm is out on top of the bracket, so we'll need to squeeze that a little bit. Squeeze a little bit and slide it down so the insulator's going in place and the contacts are going together, and we should be able to push that down in. And then we'll take our two washers. There's one washer. Put it on. And another washer. Put it on, and then we'll take our small needle nose pliers and start the clip in place, guiding it with our finger, and then we'll just give it a squeeze, hopefully with the pliers, and put it back in place. So there is the washer and the E-clip back in place, but our insulator on our spring is not in place, so we want to just coax that with the screwdriver so that's back in place. See, the insulator is nice and flat against the bracket, so we'll do that on this other set. Start it on the post, give the spring a squeeze here. Oh, I've gone too far, so I'm going to come back up a little bit, wiggle wiggle. So there, that's more or less started. Squeeze it down in place and spin it around so I can put the insulator in place. Do a little push with the screwdriver, there it's in place. So now I'll put the washers back on. Take the pliers to put this E-clip on. And we'll just make sure the arm is down all the way. The washers are seated. And of course this one's being a little reluctant to go in. Make sure the washer's down all the way. Might be sitting in the groove that we're trying to put the E-clip into. And there goes the E-clip. This is how the E-clip gets its other name, which I won't repeat. And we'll pause the camera while I find that so-and-so clip. So the clip was actually on the floor about a foot and a half behind me. So, trying to be a little more careful this time. We'll put this clip on. Started. Wow, this one's really being unusually difficult. Of course, no, something is not quite right here, because the clips usually go on much easier than this. Sometimes I put them on with my bare fingers. Clip out of there. Wow. On the other cover, this clip went on a lot easier. Probably because the one on it's been off and back on quite a bit more. This is an original set of points. On this cover, I don't know that this engine's ever actually been run. Just going to make sure that I've got this contact seated here. May have the washer stuck in the groove that I'm trying to put the E-clip into, so I guess this is good to show you. It doesn't always go perfectly, so if you're having difficulty, you're not the only one. And there goes the E-clip again. It'll go eventually. It came off of there. It should go back on. Of course, there isn't much. Oh, and there. Now our washers are gone. Wow. Well, the contact point is down all the way. The washers, both washers are in, and I believe they're seated. They're centered. Try the E-clip on my fingers here so I can see what I'm doing. Except I can't see what I'm doing. Try using the pliers to guide it here. No, except the pliers won't hold it just the way I want them to. Pliers under my finger. Okay. The clip is seated. There we go. That was easy. Okay, so the E-clip is now on. Yeah, if there's a focus here, it's going to focus. Yeah, there we go. The E-clip is on the post. The washers are there. Contact moves. Okay, so we should go back to a regularly scheduled program where we're working on the cover off the machine that won't run. Sorry, we had a little technical issue there. So the this is the forward set of points. The insulator is in its spot in the arm here, in the part of the bracket where it goes in, and I've already gone ahead and put the 2 washers on the post and the E-clip. The reverse set of points, I had to do the same. Squeeze them slightly, slide it down the post, wiggle the insulator till it sat down in its spot in the post spot here in the bracket. Then the 2 washers and the E-clip. E-clip, you can put it on with, well, one of them went on with my fingers, the other one I used the screwdriver, and a pair of needle nose pliers is probably the best way to go if you can. So now, as I put the camera in its stand here, there, sorry about that, we'll do our continuity test here and see if our points are clean. So, test light works. Ground, and the alligator clips are touching here, so the light's flashing. Okay, so there we have ground, and that's our reverse set of points, which were clean to start with, so they're still clean. And if we connect the test light, we have a set of forward ignition points that now make and break, as they say. They make contact and they break contact. So we'll just go back to our reverse set, which is this set here, and open and close them, not touching the contact. And we have consistent on and off. So now the side cover goes back in. I'll disconnect my test light here and disconnect the battery. So remembering that this hole has a longer screw in it, that's the bottom one, that's the top screw, and this again is the stud at the front. I did look for the nut, the washer that's normally under the nut. There wasn't one there, so I'm going to slide this back on after I put the cover on here, and slide the cover back on, put the nut and bolts back in it, connect the wires up, and we'll check for sparking forward again. Hopefully we're good to hear this engine running. Well, I'm going to see if I can record this cover going back into place. So, tip it to get past the cam on the rotor, and start it on. Get the wires out of it that aren't supposed to be in it, between the cover and the engine. Now the stud at the front will probably not want to go in place. Okay, just a big liar to me, it's in place. So we'll put the nut on. It should have a washer on it, but it didn't have, and I'm going to put it back without one. So I'm not going to take the time to go find the proper one, which I probably have, but okay. Start the nut on with my finger. You can't, of course, see at all what I'm doing. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm going by feel. So spin the nut on as far as I can with my finger. Take the shorter of the 2 screws. Start that in as far as it'll go by hand. Take a longer screw, find the hole that it goes into way down here, right there, right where to go, there it is. Spin it in by hand as far as it will go. Hopefully it'll go in pretty far. Okay, that's about as far as it'll go. I've got my ratchet here with the screwdriver bit in it. Tighten top screw down a bit. Then, to get the screwdriver bit on the screw at the bottom is a little bit of a challenge, because again, you can't see what you're doing, and the screwdriver bit wants to fall out underneath the engine. I think I've got the screwdriver bit in the head of the screw. No, I didn't lose the screwdriver bit even after I said what would happen if I did. Sorry, you're probably getting a good shot of my arm there. Okay, now I think I've got the screwdriver bit in the head of the screw. Yes, I do, because it seems to be tightening up. And tighten the screw reasonably tight. We don't want it getting loose, but it's not subject to a lot of stress there. And now I've got the wrench in here at the front. As you can see, another nice shot of my arm here as I tighten this screw or this nut, and it's a 9mm nut on about a 1/4 inch stud, so I'm not putting both hands on the wrench and my feet against the engine to pull on it. So now our simple to figure out wires, those go together, and we want to push them in as far as they'll go. And then the other set here, that's a wire. Do the same with it. So that's our side cover back on, and that's tight. The two screws are tight. I'm going to put some tools away here. Because I'm going to try spark tester and see what happens. So we still have the spark tester connected. I'll turn the key on and turn it to start. Now, I can see nice blue spark there. The gap isn't huge, but that's forward. And if I try to reverse, I can hear it sparking, but again, the battery doesn't seem to want to crank over in reverse as fast as it does in forward. So I'm going to give this a little fuel here using the tickler. Pull the spark tester out. Put the spark tester down where it can't fall. And try forward again. So there's forward. Now reverse. And reverse tried, but as soon as I let go of the key, it stopped because my key's got a wonky terminal in it. If you hear me pushing the key there, that's the reversing solenoid clicking. There's a weak connection in the switch for reverse. But anyway, forward is there. So some air in the tires, and maybe I can take this one for a drive. Okay, so just to recap, the first Penguin is a Penguin that I run off and on all winter, taking it to snowmobile shows, and it was running okay, except it quit, and where it normally had been running fine in forward and reverse, when the engine quit, it wouldn't start in forward or reverse. So although it could have been dirty points, it wasn't likely. So anyway, I did the spark check, no spark forward or reverse, and instead of assuming it was dirty points and digging that side cover out, which would have been more work than the second one, I just checked to make sure that the ignition coil was getting power and it wasn't, so that was fortunate. So the connection was dirty at the ignition switch, so that's been cleaned up a bit, so this Penguin should run okay for now. And the second Penguin is one that I don't run a lot. I don't remember actually the last time it ran. I think I ran it last year sometime, but it's been stored over the winter. And when I went to restart it, or went to get it started, it would start and quit in forward and not start in forward, and then it'd start, but it would start in reverse if I held the key down, because it's got the push in and turn right for reverse switch with a dirty connection. So checking the spark in it showed spark in reverse and not in forward. So the only thing that's common, or that one direction gets but the other direction doesn't get, is the points. So everything was working for reverse, so the only thing not working for forward was the forward points. So cleaning them and the reversins while I was there seems to have got it running again. So there are two relatively simple fixes accomplished in a fairly short amount of time, and hopefully that means these two machines will run all summer for me.